Welcome back to our study of apologetics. In this session, we are going to continue talking about Aquinas' ontological argument. We talked last time about the first two of Aquinas' five ways. This time, we'll talk about the third, fourth, and fifth ways that Aquinas uses to demonstrate that it's reasonable, rational to believe in the existence of God. So the third way is where Aquinas talks about God as the one necessary being. Here's how he says this. He says, if everything is possible not to be, then at one time there could have been nothing in existence. Now, if this were true, even now there would be nothing in existence, because that which does not exist only begins to exist by something already existing. Therefore, if at one time nothing was in existence, it would have been impossible for anything to have begun to exist. Therefore, not all beings are merely possible, but there must exist something, the existence of which is necessary. Now, it is impossible to go on to infinity in necessary things, which have their necessity caused by another. Therefore, we cannot but postulate the existence of some being having of itself its own necessity and not receiving it from another, but rather causing in others their necessity. This all men speak of as God. All right, if you made it through that, congratulations. Glad you're still here. Let's think about and talk about what he means by all that. Okay, so first of all, there are things that exist that do not exist by necessity. In other words, they don't have to exist. I don't have to exist. There was a time when I didn't. There will be a time when I don't. I do exist now, but not by necessity. My existence is contingent. It is dependent. Something else, someone else had to bring me into existence. And that's true of just about everything we know, right? You can think about trees, you can think about animals, you can think about people, you can even think about the planets. There was a time when those things didn't exist. Those things, their existence depends on other things. What Aquinas is saying is if everything were that way, if everything that exists depended on something else to bring about its existence, then there wouldn't be anything. Nothing would exist. There has to be something whose existence is necessary. In other words, something that cannot not exist. Its existence is not dependent upon anything else, anyone else, not on another person, not on another object, right? Not even air or oxygen, not even food or water, nothing. It has to have its own existence. So he says if something may or may not exist, right, then something uh, that already exists must bring that into existence. And if there was a time when nothing existed, then nothing would exist now, right? Because what would start bringing things into existence? But we look around and we see things do exist. So that means something must exist by necessity of itself. It is not dependent upon something else to give it existence. And Aquinas says this is what we call God. All right, now the fourth way is, I think, the most difficult to understand. It's very different from how we are used to thinking about things. So if the first three you've already found difficult, you might just want to skip the fourth one and go to the fifth one. The fifth one, I think, is one of the more helpful. So I don't want you to miss that. But the fourth one is where Aquinas talks about the requirement that there be something that is the greatest. In some ways, this is kind of related to Anselm's ontological argument, but at the same time, it's actually quite different. He says more and less are predicated of different things. So some things we say, this is more whatever, this is less whatever. Even take something like intelligence, right? A human being is more intelligent than a dog or a pig or whatever. So he says, more and less are predicated of different things according as they resemble in their different ways something which is the maximum. So uh, if a human is more intelligent than a dog, something has to be the most intelligent. He says, so there is something that is which is truest, something best, something noblest, and consequently something which is uttermost being, that is existence. There's something that is the maximum, right, of what it means to exist. He says the maximum in any genus is, so like genus, species kind of thing. The maximum in any genus is the cause of all in that genus. There must also be something which is to all beings the cause of their being, goodness, and every other perfection, and this we call God. All right, so again, what he's saying is there has to be and he particularly focuses in on being, on existence. There has to be something that is the most, that is the maximum when it comes to what it means to exist. One philosopher summarizes it this way. Peter Kreeft, he summarizes this argument this way. He says, real degrees of real perfections presuppose the existence of that perfection itself. In other words, if there's a real difference in levels of intelligence, let's say, then the existence of those differences assume that there is a fullness of that perfection, of that attribute, that reality. So think about existence, for example. You might think, well, existence is just either you exist or you don't. Well, not exactly. Think about it like this. Not everything that has being equally, right? You and a snail both exist, but your being, your existence is far greater than the snail's. It's not just there's the basic question of do you exist or not. In that sense, the answer to the question about a snail and about a person is they're both yes, right? If those things are alive, it's yes. But that is not the whole story on what it means to exist. We have more being, right? More of reality, more of what it means to exist than a snail or any other creature like that, any animal, any insect, whatever. Our existence is greater. There must be some existence that is greatest, that caused our existence, that gave us existence. So there must be something or someone who has ultimate, perfect, maximum existence, and that is God. Because for God, existence is not something he has, but can lose, like us. We can exist and then we die. Before we were born, we didn't exist. But God has never not existed, right? He has always existed. Existence is who he is, right? He is life. So that's the fourth way. And then the fifth way, okay, here's the last one. In the fifth way, he talks about the intelligence behind the action of unintelligent objects, right? Or creatures, even. Here's how he says it. He says, we see that things which lack intelligence, think about a planet. Things which lack intelligence, such as natural bodies, act for an end, a goal, right? And this is evident from their acting always or nearly always in the same way so as to obtain the best result. So a planet, for example, has the same orbit, right? It's consistently doing the same things, right? Moving in the same way. Our own planet, for example, it always revolves on its axis every 24 hours or whatever, the precise calculation is, but roughly every 24 hours. We revolve around the sun every, 364 and a quarter days. The cycles and cycles of the moon, similarly, they're fixed. How do we explain that? It's not because the moon has a mind. It's not because Jupiter is smart and knows what to do, right? So what explains that? Aquinas says, hence it is plain that not fortuitously, it's not just like a happy accident, not fortuitously, but designedly do they achieve their end. Now, whatever lacks intelligence cannot move towards an end unless it be directed by some being endowed with knowledge and intelligence. So an object that doesn't have its own mind can't do anything on purpose. It doesn't have a mind to aim at a purpose. And then he gives this example. He says, as the arrow is shot to its mark by the archer, therefore some intelligent being exists by whom all natural things are directed to their end, and this being we call God. Okay, so here's how we break this down. Here's what he's saying. Things without intelligence act for a purpose. We know that because purpose is evident in their consistent action. They keep doing the same thing, so there's some kind of purpose behind it. That indicates it's not chance that's behind their actions, but intention. And for there to be intention, there has to be an intelligent being behind that action. Therefore, there must be an intelligent being behind the intelligent action of all unintelligent things, and this is God. So, for example, Aquinas talks about an arrow. If you see an arrow repeatedly hit a target, even if you can't see the archer, even if you don't know where the arrow is coming from, you know that there must be a person who is sending that arrow with purpose, with intention to that target. Otherwise, it wouldn't continue acting in the same purposeful way over and over and over again. We mentioned the planets already. Think about your immune system in your body. If you have an immune system that knows to fight off sickness, to attack viruses, things like that. What causes the immune system to act that way? Some kind of intelligence, right? Now you might say, well, maybe it's my own body that's causing my immune system to act that way, or it's natural laws of gravity and motion and whatnot that cause the planets to act that way. And okay, but who made those? Who designed the so-called laws of the universe that make the planets move the way that they do all the time? Aquinas would say that's not just fortuitous, that's not just chance. It indicates intention, purpose, intelligence, right? There has to be a God behind all of that. Now, again, these are tools, right? These are helpful for thinking about the ways we can observe what's going on in the world and reason from the cosmos to the creator. Right? So this is just what Paul is talking about in Romans chapter 1, that God has made himself known, that his invisible attributes and his eternal power have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, right? That's in Romans 1:20. So what Aquinas is doing is helping us talk more specifically, more precisely about what it is we see in the world, what we see in the universe that bears witness to the reality of God who made the things that we see. I hope it helps you. God bless.